this is a review for the new Star Trek movie by J.J. Abrams. I'm going to say that there are some minor spoilers, so if you want to see the movie and don't want to be spoiled, stop this video right now. This is verbatim taken from a review that I did on my live journal, and if you'd like the link to that, please send me an email and I will supply that. Most would agree the definition of a re-envisioning or remake is taking something and improving upon it. One has to question, though, whether the original product needs improving on. In some movies, the answer is yes, but in most, the answer is no. This is especially true of entities that have such a saturated history as Star Trek. Making small changes is entirely understandable, but changing the entire continuity of an established world leaves me scratching my head. It feels like a slap in the face of everything that's come before it, as to say, your reality wasn't good enough, I'm going to change it. When Gene Roddenberry decided to create a new world of Star Trek, he didn't re-envision Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, only with a modern feel. He created new characters and new situations. Things felt fresh and interesting, and the 7 seasons of The Next Generation proves this. This is where I think the new Star Trek movie fails the most. Instead of reinventing the wheel, the makers should have started from scratch. Set the world of this Star Trek 100 years into the next generation's future. Then you can do as you please, and you're not stepping on other people's toes. Before I proceed, let me give you some background information on me. I'd probably say I'm a casual fan of Star Trek. I don't know everything about the Star Trek universe, and I couldn't cite you obscure information about all of the episodes. My father was a fan of the original series, and we would sit down to watch reruns now and then. When The Next Generation was released, he and I decided to give it a chance, and we've yet to regret it. Even now, I watch them whenever sci-fi airs them. Over the course of the franchise, I've grown ever more distant with each series. One of the exciting things about The Next Generation was that almost a 30-year gap separated both series. It was an event, and it was pretty exciting. By the release of Enterprise, the franchise had felt saturated, convoluted, and just watered down. Star Trek needed a rest, to let the fans get restless again and eager for a new product. Then this movie was announced. When I heard about it being a re-envisioning, my immediate reaction was, what? And why? Did we really need to see younger versions of the original cast? Couldn't the makers of the next Star Trek just come up with their own unique creations? After seeing the movie, I'm still asking these questions. I went into Star Trek with low expectations, but a somewhat open mind. And while I was watching, a bizarre thing happened. I had fun. I enjoyed the movie. I laughed when McCoy would make a reference about being a doctor and not a insert your word here. And I would tense up when Kirk and Sulu were fighting the Romulans on the deck of that huge drill. I walked out of the film with a smile on my face. My friends and I went to get something to eat, and we discussed what we had seen. That's when reality started to reassert itself. I started to think about the film I had just viewed, and I began to realize that there were some huge flaws in it. The entire plot revolves around time travel and alternate universes, something Trek has overdone. This is the biggest thing that turned me off. The film wasn't a simple story about the Enterprise and its crew. It was a huge, complicated mess about traveling to the past and changing reality. It was adequately told, but felt very unoriginal. It felt like a leftover script from Enterprise that someone dusted off and modified. Another problem I had was the way Kirk took command of the Enterprise. Old Spock tells Kirk to gain command by making young Spock realize that he's emotionally invested in the situation. Thereby, Spock is in no position to command the Enterprise. There's just one flaw with that thinking. Kirk's father was killed by the same Romulan commanding the ship the Enterprise is going after. Wouldn't it be logical to argue that Kirk is also emotionally invested in this situation and unfit for command? Kirk is a bundle of emotions, and it's obvious he hasn't gotten over the death of his father. It's what's caused him to act out throughout the entire first half. And this is not nitpicking. This is a major cause and effect of the second half of the movie, and it's integral to Kirk taking command of the ship. I think most of the cast were expertly picked and were perfectly utilized, with two exceptions. Uhura's character is the first one. In the turbo lift, she and Spock are talking after Vulcan has been destroyed, and she offers him emotional support. And that's all I felt her character contributed to this film. She was either spurning Kirk's advances or looking with teary eyes at Spock. Where is the wise, strong-willed woman who should have offered Spock some advice when he needed it the most? The other misutilization was Kirk. Am I supposed to feel empathy for Kirk? He acts out and he gets into trouble because his dad wasn't there to hug him. This is the hero of the film? I could have let him pass if he had matured in the course of the film, but in his heart he hasn't. He cheated the Kobayashi Maru test. Yes, I realize the real Kirk did as well, but he also cheated his way into commanding the Enterprise. What are the consequences of this? Starfleet decides to make him Pike's replacement. Has he even finished Starfleet Academy? It's certainly a window into reality, as most people in power do little to earn that position, but this is the guy we're supposed to cheer for. This is not a hero. My favorite character was McCoy. It seemed like he had some of the best lines, and both he and Scotty brought some comic relief to the film that was definitely welcomed. Spock was perfectly portrayed as a man with an ever-existing internal battle between human and Vulcan sensibilities. And I was happy with Sulu and Chekhov as well, and Eric Bana played a great Romulan villain. I'd also like to say I enjoyed some of the small moments. Kirk asking Sulu what kind of combat training he's had, and Sulu responds with fencing, stands out as one of my favorite moments. At the end of the day, I have to say that while Star Trek is entertaining when being watched, it has very little lasting value once out of the theaters. It's a summer money-making movie, nothing more, nothing less. It's all flash with little substance. I honestly doubt it's a revitalization of the franchise. This film will do well in theaters due to the curiosity factor, but the hardcore fans will come away disappointed, and the average moviegoer will have forgotten it by the time summer truly arrives. I also don't see any sequel they might plan doing as well as this film. All in all, I've seen worse, but man, I have definitely seen better. I'm going to give this film a 5 out of 10.
Logic was impeccable, Captain. We are in grave danger.